Morning, I'm Malcolm Graham Wood, and I'm here at Core Finance doing a special CEO interview. My guest today is Oisin Fanning, the CEO of San Leon Energy. Welcome back, Oisin. Nice to see you.
Thank you. Morning, Malky. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you. I'm far away at the moment, but
Where I wish I was, Malky, where I wish I was.
The magic of modern science. I'm in a room at the Table Bay Hotel in Cape Town. Now, yesterday you announced a truly significant deal. When I read through it, I was genuinely very, very impressed. I think the best bet today is if you can give us a sort of chapter and verse what this deal is all about.
Well, fundamentally, it's to increase our percentage in the ELI pipeline. So we've always had an ambition to become a major shareholder in that pipeline, particularly when we saw the difficulties with theft and other issues that happened in Normal 18. And with this investor, Tri-Re Asset Managers that have come along, that are investing a total of $187 million, it has enabled us immediately to go to a level of 55% in the pipeline. And we hope slowly but surely to increase that. So it's enabled us to do that. It's the first independent pipeline for a while built in Nigeria. And it will not only service us, but it will service all the companies around us, which is particularly key.
Good. So the money's coming in, and can you give us a bit more flesh on the bones about the investor, who they are? I mean, you mentioned to me yesterday they've got pipeline and a Canadian experience as well.
Yeah, they are Canadian effectively. I mean, Tri-Re Asset Management. Ironically, Tri-Re stands for three kings in Irish, which is maybe brought us a bit of luck being an Irish company. But they're Canadian fund based out of New York. I mean, one thing Canadians understand is pipelines. They understand them extremely well. It's a huge business in Canada. And so therefore, this was not a huge learning curve for them. And they were able to get down and deep into it and see what we saw, which is a huge potential for a pipeline of this nature, and maybe others to come over the coming years. And I mean, when you consider that when we started in Oman 18 in Nigeria in 2016, we were losing about 15-20% maybe to theft.
Yeah.
This time last year was 90%. And that wasn't just us. It was every player in the region was losing that type of oil. I mean, we had to stop. I mean, you couldn't actually produce oil just for other people, basically, at the end of the day. and in fairness to Araton and ourselves, we made that decision 2 years ago to start this pipeline. And we did. And the pipeline has been commissioned. It's ready to go. The actual pipe itself connecting to the FSO is probably another 90 to 120 days to finish. But the bargings are already beginning to start. So, and everything's licensed and ready to operate.
Yeah, that's a stake in San Leon and potentially higher stake at 60p.
Yes, they are. Yeah. So the buying stock, I think when we were suspended, we closed at about 16 pence. The buying stock currently at 40 pence. And they have options then to buy at 50 and 60. So, they definitely have a very long-term outlook as to where the company is going, which is good for us. I mean, Tosca Fund have been fantastic to us, as you know, a major shareholder and a major supporter over the years. And having another supporter like that coming in to work alongside each other will be fantastic. And I hope will generate value not only for us, but actually the people in the region who currently are suffering because they just don't have enough access to pipelines to produce their oil.
Indeed. So you mentioned briefly about ELI and the pipeline and so on. What's the strategic importance in a bit more detail, Oisin, for putting this? It's a sort of, you're making a sort of final piece in the jigsaw for a number of reasons, aren't you, really?
Yeah, we are. So what we've done is, the ELI at Castle, as we call it, the large ship, has now become an official terminal. So that's an oil terminal. And Shell are off taking all the oil off that terminal at this moment in time. So effectively, it's nearly replacing the Shell's own Bonny terminal, because the route to Bonny's terminal is through the swamp where all the theft is happening. So by the time it gets there, like everybody's losing so much oil, it's just not worthwhile. This avoids all that because our new pipe runs down a river for a number of kilometers, and that river is patrolled by destroyers, etc. There's never been any theft from that river ever. And then it goes 30 kilometers out to sea to the ship, which is permanently moored there. And so therefore, a pair of binoculars, you can see anyone trying to get out there. So, the security is very, very tight. There'll be no theft. So we're allowing for 3% downtime. We're not allowing for any theft at all. Whereas, as I said, theft had reached 90%, which is just ridiculous level in the swamp.
Yeah.
Yeah, you just can't sustain it.
No. And so you're putting money into ELI. It's come just in the nick of time, really, hasn't it? Because I noticed in the announcement yesterday they've been struggling big time.
Yeah, I mean, look, they started off on the premise, of course, and they had some common shareholders with the Oman 18, with Eritron, with the premise that the cash from the oil would help build up the pipeline. But of course, then the oil came under so much pressure from theft, as I've mentioned a few times, that the cash flow wasn't there. So they ended up with a difficult creditor situation, which is the opportunity we got. Because we said, well, look, guys, if you're under pressure from creditors, we'll raise funds, we'll come in, but we want X percentage. So in fact, some of the funds that we've given to them has been lent as a loan. So we actually get the funds back and the percentage. It's very similar to the deal we originally did, actually, back in 2016, where we lent the 175 million at 16%, but got 10.5% indirect interest anyway. So we did something very similar there.
Yeah. You'd sort of terminated the deal halfway through almost, didn't you? The deal,
the reverse takeover.
Yeah, the RCA, yeah.
Yeah, because, first of all, you see the difficulties there were, but also the two partners got into a bit of a fight, and that's not good. And the whole idea of the reverse takeover was to take out Sahara. Sahara felt it was taking too long, obviously, and decided it wasn't going to happen and decided to pull out. They ended up in a fight, which is never good, and as to who was going to operate the asset. And now, basically, NNPC have effectively been operating this asset now for the last month or so. And it looks to me that everybody will just turn around and agree that NNPC will operate, and the two individual groupings will just be partners, effectively. And that's now we're seeing the oil beginning to flow again. I mean, that flow of oil had been as high as 60 and went down to practically zero, maybe. And now it's sort of around the 15,000 barrels a day. It'll begin to start improving over time. The whole sort of paperwork hasn't been signed or dealt yet, but it looks very much that's the way it's going, full stop. Everybody seems to be hitting a realistic level that fighting in courts and argues to who's going to operate. There's no advantage in operating. Nobody makes any more money by operating. In fact, if anything, I think an operator loses money because he'd be left with the little bills that people haven't paid, etc., etc. So with NNPC operating, it does away with the arguments. It should be very fluid.
Yeah, and so this deal makes it, well, you raise more money, if my memory serves me correctly, at a better rate, and probably with a much better long-term potential as you go forward with your new partners. Yes. Where does Midwestern come into all this in terms of potential?
Yeah, I mean, Midwestern, through another shareholding that they have a small percentage of ELI itself, I think about 10%, something like that, anyway. But of course, they're heavily involved in Oman 18 itself. And so their interest, along with ours, because we're involved in Oman 18 and with our 10.5%, is to make sure that Oman 18 gets back to flow rates with no theft, because our pipeline will stop that theft. And so they're as keen to see this pipeline finish and get started as anybody. So, I mean, the relationship with Midwestern is very good, always has been good. They owe us 125 million, and we're going to work that through over time as well. So we've got quite, when you look at our balance sheet as we go forward, Midwestern owes 125. I think ELI now owe us sort of 59 million, etc. And so we're in a very nice situation with 55% on that. On Eritron, I'm head of the finance committee in Eritron, so there's nothing I don't see I can't do. So there's a very good symbiotic relationship all around. We had the one non-partner where there's a bit of fight, but those things go away very quickly. I mean, fighting in Nigeria is not unusual. It's nearly a national pastime at times.
Yeah. Well, it's great to get this deal away, to be honest. It's difficult to get deals done in Africa, so you must be very pleased.
No, we are pleased. It's very difficult. I mean, Tri Asset Manager are extremely brave in doing it, but they, as I said, understood the pipeline business extremely well. They could see the profit that can be made, which can be substantial. They can see there's a hunger for it as well. I mean, we have at least 7 people who are willing to sign up to new contracts to barge to some have already signed. to barge to the FSO. So, we're sitting in a very good position. I actually think that if you were to look at Eritron and the barging, Eritron will probably only ever represent about 30% of the full capacity of the pipe. And the rest will be from outsiders and fields all around us. So, and that pipe can do a total of 200,000 barrels, 100,000 on the pipeline at least,
and
100,000 from barging. Now, it'll take years to fill that up, of course. It's not going to fill up overnight, but it's still got that capacity. The ship takes 2 million barrels, and Shell offtake those barrels from the ship. So it's a very nice situation, but it did take, and even at the best will in the world, it always takes a year and a half to 2 years to build something like that up, which we've taken.
Indeed. So, putting it all together, wrapping up what you've been saying about your new friends, the investors, the partners, and going forward for that, could you just, in a sort of final question, say where that leaves San Leon overall, looking at it perhaps over 12 to 18 months? Where would you like to see yourselves in 18 months' time?
And a much larger company in terms of sort of market cap, etc. That's for sure. I don't think we will be, to be honest. It's CEOs would love to predict where they're going, but if you were to look 5 years out, say, I would want this company to have developed to the stage where it's in the billions of dollars, and I think that can happen. But I don't want to rush to judgment as to what might happen in the coming months. But it will be much better than it was, because the pipeline will certainly be working very well starting this week, next week. And of course, then Oman 18 will start generating cash as well. And that will be contributing to the pipeline as well. So it looks very positive. That's probably the best thing I can say. But we have a much longer term view, and our investors do. I mean, both sort of Tosca Fund and Tri-Re Asset Management, both of them have spoken together. They have a very good long term view as to where this might go.
Yeah, and it mustn't be underestimated how much Martin and the team at Tosca Fund have supported you and so on through this process. Yeah,
absolutely not. Very much so. We wouldn't be here without them. They've been very supportive.
Yeah. Just one quickie before we go. When can the shareholders expect the quote to be restored? Do you think?
Yeah, I think look, with everything that was going on, the Nigerians fell behind in their accounts, unfortunately, second time in 10 years, and that's why we got suspended. But I would think second week in November, something like that. Definitely during the course of November, we will be back up and listed.
Oisin, it's very kind of you to spare some time today, and it must be a really busy timetable for you. Thank you very much for joining me today.
All right. Take care.
Okay. And, so that's been me, Malcolm Graham Wood at Core London Studios, doing a special one-off interview with CEO Oisin Fanning of San Leon, following the deal that came out yesterday. Thank you very much for watching, and see you next time. Bye now.